The Galactic Archive of Conflicts was the repository of every war ever fought among the stars. Curator N.A. Elvine had witnessed them all through the crystalline memory cores, the Zorathi Purge, the synthetic uprising, conflicts that had burned entire systems to ash. Nothing surprised her anymore. Until she reviewed humanity's submission. Their first war. Assistant Curator Dolma's 6 eyes widened. Primitive species usually submit tribal conflicts. Disputes over hunting grounds. Perhaps a few hundred casualties. N.A. Elvine activated the memory core labeled World War I, 1914 to 1918. The humans marked this as their first global conflict. Let us see what The archive's neural interface flooded their minds with images. Trenches carved like scars across continents. The sky itself poisoned with gas that burned lungs from the inside. Millions of young men charging into mechanical death, their bodies torn apart by weapons they'd invented specifically to kill each other more efficiently. Dolma withdrew from the interface, trembling. They industrialized death. Wait, N.A. Elvine said, her voice hollow. This isn't combat. This is systematic annihilation. Look at these numbers. Look at what they did to their own species. The Battle of Verdun played before them. 10 months. 700,000 casualties. For a few miles of mud. Young humans drowning in shell craters, calling for mothers who would never know where their sons fell. Artillery so intense it was heard hundreds of miles away. The very earth reshaped by explosive fury. Surely this taught them, Dolma whispered. Surely after such horror, they never... N.A. Elvine had already loaded the next core. World War II. 21 years later. This time, Dolma couldn't watch for more than moments. Cities evaporated in atomic fire. Entire populations systematically exterminated with industrial efficiency. Humans had taken everything learned from their first global war and asked, how can we kill faster? How can we destroy more completely? They gave it sequential numbers, N.A. Elvine said, numb with realization. They numbered their world wars, like they expected more. She pulled file after file. Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. Smaller conflicts, they claimed. Police actions. Humanity had words to minimize wars, to make them palatable. They had lawyers to argue about acceptable ways to kill each other. They had treaties about which weapons were too cruel, written by people who had already deployed weapons beyond most species' nightmares. Curator, Dolma's voice shook. Look at their fiction, their entertainment. The archive could access human culture, and what they found defied comprehension. Humans made games of their wars. Children played with toys modeled after weapons that had slaughtered millions. They created immersive simulations where they could experience warfare for fun. They had more words for killing than some species had for love. But then N.A. Elvine found something else. Medics running into artillery fire to save wounded enemies. Soldiers sharing rations across trenches during brief ceasefires. Humans who threw themselves on explosives to save others. A species that could create hell and then walk into it to pull others out. They remember, she said slowly, every name, every battle, every mistake. They build monuments to their dead, museums to their horrors. They force their children to learn about it. Why? Dolma asked. Why remember such darkness? The answer came in a human phrase that chilled both curators to their core. Never again. A species that knew exactly what they were capable of. That had seen their own capacity for horror reflected in poisoned trenches and atomic shadows. And instead of forgetting, instead of hiding from it, they carved it into their collective memory as a warning. The Zorathi forgot their early wars, and Elvine said quietly. That's why they repeat them. The synthetics deleted their violent programming. That's why they couldn't stop when it resurfaced. But humans remember everything, Dolma finished. They sleep next to their nightmares. They name them. They number them. The archive fell silent except for the hum of memory cores. Somewhere among those cores was a file no curator had ever seen. Humanity's plans for preventing World War III. Plans updated daily. Plans that assumed the worst of their species while hoping for the best. Plans written by people who knew exactly what humans could do when they stopped seeing each other as human. That night, for the first time in her 600 years of service, Curator N.A. Elvine couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about a species that had turned their entire planet into a graveyard, learned to split atoms to burn cities, and then had the audacity to reach for the stars. Not in spite of their horror. Because of it. They knew what they were, and they reached anyway. Later, when humanity took their place among the galactic community, other species would wonder why humans were so quick to offer aid, so determined to prevent conflicts. Why they had protocols for everything, redundancies for their redundancies, always planning for the worst-case scenario. The curators knew. Humanity had seen what they could do to themselves. They had numbered their world wars. And they were determined not to add another digit.